Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2024 film Late Night with the Devil. It's a Shudder exclusive and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, April 19th. So this is a no spoiler review. Now I've heard a lot online, seen a lot of people talking about how amazing Late Night with the Devil is, and I just wanted to let you know I don't think it's as amazing as the hype that I'm hearing. That's kind of an issue with hype online about movies. They'll make films sound like it's going to be the most amazing film you've ever seen in your life. And it just depends on the person. Maybe it is for that person. But for someone like myself, and probably people watching this, you've seen a lot of these films, a lot of horror films. So especially with this film, there's going to be some stuff that feels very familiar. There's stuff new about this and unique, and it's well put together. But overall, there's a lot of samesies stuff that goes on in this film as well. But it is a good film, and I do recommend it, and it is getting a good rating from me. I'm just saying, hype is a problematic thing, and we all need to try our best to not think about it. By the way, anyone who wants to know, this is the Stuff t-shirt, if you're just looking at it being like, what is that? Anyway, written and directed by Cairnes, who did 100 Bloody Acres and Scare Campaign, as well as Colin Cairnes, who did Under One Roof, Parental Guidance, 100 Bloody Acres, and Scare Campaign. Again, Shudder exclusive, coming Friday, April 19th. Synopsis. It's about a late-night TV show host named Jack Delroy, who's played by David Dastmalchian, who has a show called Night Owls, which, by the way, when I was watching this film, I liked the concept of Night Owls so much, and the little snippets that you see of all the episodes that he's had, that I thought it'd be a great idea for Shudder to actually take this film, get the rights to do this, and create a series based off of Night Owls. Like, literally create the show Night Owls, scripted, and show that. I think people would actually really attach to that and love that series. It could be amazing. It really could be amazing. So, anyway, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. Anyway, so it's about Jack Delroy. He has his late night show. He's been through some stuff in his life, some real issues, and he's really trying, the big thing he's trying to do is get better ratings. He's trying to beat Carson, basically, because this is set in the 70s. So he's trying to up the ante, and this film takes it to a point where the majority of the events of it take place on Halloween night, and he's trying to have this huge Halloween show that really sucks people in, and so he does some things with a medium and someone who's been involved with this girl who was in a cult, and there's a skeptic, and it's all this type of stuff. So you can kind of guess where things end up going with the film, but that's as much as I'm going to say about it. You should check it out. It is good. The film immediately strikes this kind of light, fun, and funny tone, which maintains throughout the entire film. So from the beginning, you get this feeling, I'm going to have fun, I'm going to have a good time, we're not going to take things too seriously. There is a comedic aspect to the film, a pretty decent one, and the comedy legitimately hits, too, for the most part. But you also need to consider this is like 70s comedy, because they're doing it as realistic to late-night TV shows as was going on in the 70s. So it's that type of humor, but that said, I do think it's actually legitimately kind of funny. So I like that aspect of it. But the kind of like the light feeling to it all is pretty cool. Also, I just think they do an amazing job of creating the feeling that you are in the 70s, the feeling that you are watching an actual late-night TV show from the 70s. It feels so real, which is part of the reason I was saying in the beginning that I would love for there to be a version of this on Shudder as an actual series. That would be just very cool. The backstory for what you need to know for this film is given in kind of like a TV expose montage in a way. And it's very effective. It's a quick, good way to get people caught up to a point where the filmmakers want to start telling the legitimate part of the story. That said, I do think that they could have taken their time with it a little bit more, because there are some issues towards the end of the film where it feels like they were kind of running out of things to say and things to do. The film is an hour and 32 minutes with credits, and it does feel like it drags towards the end of the film. So there is some stuff that could have been cut down, or some stuff that could have been expanded upon in the beginning to kind of fill out that time if they really it felt like they needed to fill that time out. But for the most part, good pacing up until probably the final third of the film, and then it really starts to slow down. Things get a little bit repetitive, and you feel like they're kind of in this situation where they're like, okay, where are we going to go with this? Where are we going to go with this? And they do that for a while until it finally hits the end, and they're just like, okay, here, we get to do the ending now, and then things get chaotic, things get more fun, you get some fun surprises, and then it ends. And then you're just like, okay. The 70s late night talk show created is fun and charming. It's in the way it's written, but it's also in the acting, particularly David Dastmalchian, who plays Jack Delroy, who does an awesome job. He hits a good range of emotions with the character, and there are these really great moments too where you can just look at his expressions and kind of know what's going on in his head, which is the calling card of a very good actor. He's been in a lot of great stuff. And one of the great things I like about David Dastmalchian is that he literally is a fan of the horror genre. So, I mean, I like anyone who actually does a good job in horror films, but I tend to like them even more when you're like, oh, they're legitimately a fan. So, I don't know, it just feels like there's more love put into those performances. And Dastmalchian really does an excellent job in this. And everyone else does a good job. There really aren't any bad performances in this film. I think there's one performance that at first seems like maybe it's bad, but then you kind of realize it kind of makes sense for the character. You'll find out. Speaking of I literally was just talking about that. My mistake. It is shot well and does appropriately look 70s. It does have that kind of like TV show sheen to it, like you're actually watching it on an old tube television. And it's like that little bit of like a blurriness, almost dreamlike look to it. So not like high def type of quality, which is great because it makes it legitimately feel like it is something you're watching in the 70s legitimately. So I think they captured the feel and the costuming, the set design, all that stuff of legitimately the 70s. So they did an excellent job with that. They do end up having some fun practical effects that pop up in this. Not as much as I would have wanted, but when they show up, they're pretty cool. I did really enjoy them. They're fun kind of gore gags, that kind of sticking with the whole like light fun feeling to the film. There is CGI used as well, which looks okay. It doesn't look phenomenal, but it doesn't look bad. It looks okay. So there is that. Like I said, pacing is quite good up until about the final third of the film. Then it slows down. Then it picks back up at the very, very end. The end does unleash some fun chaos, which, you know, it kind of had to at that point because you were waiting for it. Like there was this building up. They do a good job of kind of creating and maintaining tension for a majority of the time until it gets to that point where you're just kind of like, okay, we're repeating things and it feels like we're kind of stuck and don't know where to go. But then they obviously get over that. Unfortunately, this film is very predictable, in my opinion. Very predictable. So, like I was saying in the beginning, there's a lot of stuff here that's going to feel very familiar to you. Now, that said, it's still a very good film and is worth checking out because it does some things that are unique, like the talk show aspect of it in the 70s and that type of stuff. But there's a lot of stuff going on with this film that's just very overused, I will say, basically. So that kind of takes my rating down a little bit for the film. But yeah, overall good, though. The interesting thing is, this is basically a found footage film. They set that up in the very beginning. That's not really giving anything away. But this is basically a found footage film that doesn't present like a found footage film. And I appreciate that because I typically don't really like found footage films because of how they are and how terrible their pacing inherently is. This is more done, kind of think closer to something like a Lake Mungo style of found footage, which is a very valid way to do the subgenre, but also make it way more engaging and way more fast-paced. So I do appreciate that they did that. There's a character in this that I believe is very strongly influenced by The Amazing Randy, I think was his name. He was a magician in the 70s, and then he became this guy who would go around and debunk like mediums and people holding seances. And he was a skeptic who would go on shows and try and show people like, you are being defrauded, basically, like, by these people. And there's a character just like that. So if anyone's interested in that type of character and wants to watch a really cool documentary about James Randi, there's a documentary called An Honest Liar. When I watched it, it was on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on there, but it's a very good documentary about this guy who's a very interesting person. The last thing I guess I have to say before I give my rating is, there are a lot of people who have been review bombing this film because it does use a few instances of AI-generated artwork. I am not for that. I'm not for either thing, actually. I'm not for the use of AI-generated artwork, but I'm also not for review bombing movies for a reason like that. Just because there are a lot of people who worked very hard on this film, and to try to kill its rating, I think it's been pretty unsuccessful in people doing that, though. Trying to kill its rating is very disrespectful to a lot of people who worked really hard. It was a small amount of people who made a bad decision, in my opinion, to use AI-generated artwork. But the other thing is, it's not like they hurt anyone. Like, it's not like anyone was assaulted or anyone was injured on the set or anything like that. Yes, I understand people's stance on the use of AI and how that can infringe on actual jobs, and that's why I don't support the use of AI, especially in an instance like this. And I do think the filmmakers actually should have stayed away from that and actually gotten some people to create legitimate art and paid them for it. But at the same time, I don't think it's one of these things where there's this one issue with that people have with the film, so you throw the whole thing out and you say it's all terrible. That's not cool, in my opinion. So anyway, just kind of throwing that out there, because I know that there's been that controversy around it, so it would be weird for me not to address it in any way in this review. So that's why I'm just kind of tacking it on to the end, because then it's more of an afterthought than it is the focus after I've done my review. All good. So out of 5 stars, half stars, and play, I was between 3.5 and 4 stars on this one. So if I did quarters, I'd do 3.75, but I think there is definitely enough quite good stuff to bump it to the 4 officially. So just know I was between those two, but I'll go ahead and say 4 for the purpose of this review. So would love to hear other people's opinions on Late Night with the Devil. Put it in the comments. Hopefully people enjoy it. We can talk spoilers in the comments. That's totally cool. Do me a favor and hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would appreciate that. Do the thumbs up on this video and every video I do if you can, to help with the YouTube algorithm, and hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos. But regardless, I appreciate your time. I really, really do. I always am humbled by the fact that people actually watch these things that I put out. But thank you so much, and until next time, keep it brutal.